everybody, this is Hector, and welcome to the Faith and Fandom Artists Alley Aftermath podcast. This is going to be for BoardWalk Comic Con 2025, plus a smidgen of the Gathering or Carolina Movement Gathering, which is a church planter conference, and also for the 21 Pilots concert that took place in Charlotte, North Carolina, on October 8th. And you'll understand why I'm throwing those other things in there, just because stuff. Trust me. Sort of, maybe. But yeah, how are y'all doing? Not that you can answer, but I hope you're doing well. But you're apparently listening to this because you want to hear how Comic-Con went, so I'm going to tell you. This is BoardWalk Comic-Con's inaugural run. This show was put on by the folks that put on Soda City Comic Con. Now, I have been cordial and friendly with those folks for years, but because of life and scheduling and everything else, I've yet to actually do one of their Comic Cons. Like, they're always nice to me at shows, and they invite me to stuff all the time, but it's, like, always been a scheduling thing. Like, I'd apply, and they'd be full, and then as soon as I book another show, they'd hit me back and said, hey, we've got space now, and it's that dance, which as life be life and sometimes. So this was their first go in Myrtle Beach, and I used to love doing shows in Myrtle Beach, and it's been a minute since we've had a good Myrtle Beach show. Not to say that people's efforts haven't been good in Myrtle Beach, but they, like, if you've listened to this for a while, you'll know that I've not had great experiences in Myrtle Beach as of lately, in the last few years. For many years, I did X-Con in Myrtle Beach, and also used to do Free Comic Book Day at Apocalypse Comics. And so those were my two staples for Myrtle Beach. And both of those things no longer exist. So this was their new attempt to foray into there. And so, yeah. This was a 2-day show in Myrtle Beach at the Convention Center, which is probably the best place to have a show in Myrtle Beach. I've been to shows in other places, like smaller convention centers attached to hotels that just didn't fly as well. And yeah, this was a day that I had a lot going on, just in house-wise and work-wise and everything else. And I was working for the school that I work with up until the point that I left, and trying to be as an adult as possible. And so I left, and I got down to Myrtle. Well, first of all, I stopped for a funeral, which is, part of the pastoral life. I had a congregant's mother pass away, so I had to stop, and had to, meaning like I could not allow myself not to. I had to stop and go to the funeral prior to going to the show, because if I have the ability, I'm going to show up to a funeral. It's kind of a solid pastoral move. So I was heading to there. I stopped by the funeral and hung out for a bit, or the wake, or visitation, as they say. And then I headed on down to Myrtle Beach, and loading in, this was probably the most, I don't know, it's an ineffective load-in process, but it's, that thing of, hey, we want you to load your stuff in at your table, then move your car around the block and park on the back side of the parking lot, and then finish loading in, which is understandable, but also, ew, I don't like it. So I went to go load in, and while I was loading in, Ashley from Fangirling Over Jesus was there, so I hung out with her a little bit, and we chit-chatted, and I continued working on my booth and loading it in, and just taking my time with that. Eventually, as we were going through the process, Ashley finished her booth, and I said I needed like 5 more minutes, and so she just started helping me, and like we just sat and talked for we probably both would have been out of there way sooner, but we sat there and talked about life, and she wasn't aware of my recent medical crises and situations, so I filled her in on that, and but we had a good time catching up and talking shop and talking about cons and stuff like that, and yeah, it was a good time of just fellowship and encouragement. Just in setting up was nice. And the showrunners were riding around the convention center on electric scooters, and it was a vibe. We got done setting up, and we went to the coffee shop across the street ish, like across the street and up the block from the convention center, called 17 Beans. And we sat and talked there about the Battlestar Galactica convention she went to, and about life and parents and all the things. And it was good fellowship and good encouragement. And it's always nice to actually get to be in the same space as Ashley, and to see what she's doing, and to also talk about, life, and the fact that things aren't always easy, and that ministry and life aren't always smooth. And from somebody who, listen, you don't know how hard life and ministry in the Comic-Con bubble can be until you do it. And I'll say this, Ashley has developed and brought on herself way more travel and hustle than I have, where I'm still in a place where I probably stubbornly, but I still try and operate on the concept that my booth is a one trip thing. Like the stubborn dude that wants to carry all the groceries in at once, I want to carry all of my stuff in one trip. And for the most part, I can do that until it's something crazy. Now I've kind of learned to get my situation back down to that. She sat up for like 4 to 5 hours of load up and still had stuff to do. But either way, I got to my hotel. I stayed at a hotel on the beach, because if you're going to be in Myrtle Beach, why not? Personally, in life in general, one of my favorite and most comforting things is just the sight and sound of the ocean. Just hearing it. I don't need to get in the water. I don't need to swim. I just like hearing it and seeing it, because seeing something so big and so beautiful reminds me of how much bigger God is than I am, and that he's got things under control. So I take a lot of comfort from that. As Switchfoot says, there's a place down by the ocean where I take my mixed emotions. So yeah, I went and got to the hotel and checked in. And as I checked in, or even before I checked in, as I was unloading my car, I realized I left my luggage at my house. Like all my clothes. I had my toiletry bag, my pillow to help me not further damage my spine, and my backpack. Past that, I did not bring clothing of any way, shape, or form. I had a hoodie. I had my Quiet Mountain Apparel, Yes and Amen, Trafalgar Law hoodie. That was the only clothing I had, plus the dress clothes I wore to the funeral. So that to me was, okay, I'm going to need to make a clothing run. Now, initially, I was just going to go to a Dollar General, and I don't think this is TMI, but roll with me. You can pretend I don't say what I'm about to say. I was just going to roll to a Dollar General and just buy a pack of underwear and maybe rewear the clothes I was wearing. I'm only going to be there 2 days, but that was also not exactly my goal. But if all else fails, instead I ended up going to Walmart, because the local Dollar General was closed. I went to Walmart and I bought myself 2 outfits for the weekend, sort of. I bought a pair of shorts, a skeleton t-shirt because it's October. And it's really funny. I bought a skeleton shirt, and if I haven't caught you up or you're not aware, I'm having some spinal issues. And as I've been hearing the parts of my spine that are wrong, or I've got some little bones towards my lower lumbar spine that are chipped or broken, and I haven't fully understood that, and I haven't actually looked it up because you know what? I don't want to know. But I put on the skeleton shirt and I looked down. I was like, oh, hey, these are the bones that are broken. I'm like, oh man, that's terrible. And I showed Ashley that too. The next day. But I went to Walmart. I got a couple outfits, or I got a couple shirts and a pair of shorts. And then just, but here's my notable Walmart experience. In the Myrtle Beach Walmart by the mall, like on 501, the bigger Walmart in Myrtle Beach, all of the underwear is locked behind glass cases. Chew on that. Just chew on that right there. All of the underwear is locked behind glass cases. Now, when I'm doing this, let's say it's 9 to 10 o'clock at night. So I literally have to push a button on the glass wall of underwear to get an associate to come unlock my underwear. Phrases I don't think I'll ever say on the internet. The associate comes over. She's a young lady with a very thick accent. Not Southern accent. She's somewhere from another part of the world, and her accent was thick. I can't pinpoint where. But if you've ever spent much time in Myrtle Beach, many of the employees in Myrtle Beach come from other countries and travel, especially during the summer. But this young lady came over, and she asked me which ones I wanted, and I pointed them out. And then I reached for them. She's like, I'm not allowed to let you have this. And I said, excuse me? And she says, protocol does not allow for me to give you this product at this time. Like, it's one thing to lock up the underwear, but they wouldn't let me walk the store with it. She said, I'll put it at the self-checkout counter, and she pointed to which one it would be. It'll be at that self-checkout counter. You can alert an associate when you get there, and they'll give you your product. They wouldn't let me just hold my underwear, guys. It's already bad enough that I forgot my clothes, but I wasn't allowed to physically walk through Walmart with a pair of tighty-whities. What's going on in Myrtle Beach, y'all? That you are so restrictive about your drawers, as the Southerners say. Freaking chastity belt lock and key situation over here. I took a walk to the action figures just to kind of collect myself because I was feeling some type of way about being denied control of my britches. But eventually I went and did exactly that and went back and departed there. I got a burger at River City Cafe, which is one of the more notable burger establishments in the Myrtle Beach region. It was wonderful. And I couldn't finish my burger or large onion ring because it was too big. But that's fine. I also didn't take it with me because there was going to be no time to eat this stuff. Crashed out for the night. Got up early. Had some fruit or yogurt or something for breakfast at the hotel. At the breakfast there at the hotel. Also got some coffee. Hold on. I bypassed the majority of what I needed to tell you about Friday night. when I got to my room after the burger and the underwear ordeal, there was a full raging party in the hotel room next door to me. As I opened the door, I heard blaringly loud, "Stop, drop, open up shop." And the music did not stop blaring. And I can't tell you if it ever stopped. At some point, I fell asleep. And it had gotten quiet for a moment. Then they started blaring music at 5 a.m. Now, I considered knocking on the door. I considered calling management, but I feel like a snitch and like a punk. And I feel like biblically, if I got a beef with somebody, I should just go talk to them. But I also didn't want to put on a full set of appropriate clothing and go knock on this door when there's obviously a party raging. And if you're not aware, it's also a bike week in Myrtle Beach, and there's probably a room full of bikers stop, dropping, and opening up shop in the room next door to me. And I'm not trying to have that kind of beef at 3 o'clock in the morning. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, they started blaring music, and it jolted me out of my sleep enough to the point that I ran over to that little divider door between our room, like between my room and their room, and I just banged on it. And then I went back to sleep. But it was rough. I was literally grumpy for hours because I was frustrated at that whole scenario. But anyway, I got to the con, got myself some coffee and mini donuts, and sat down and prepared for my day. I did not bring a pencil because I left it in my vehicle. So I borrowed a pencil from the Dragon's Lair art team, and I started sketching and doing my sketches and stuff. A dude came and bought the Vader shirt, which was my first purchase of the day. But he had just gotten in the door, saw the Darth Vader shirt, and ran over and bought it. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't expect to find things I really loved here, or that I actually had to buy." And he said, "This is my first con ever." And then I said, wait. Is this your first purchase at your first con ever? And he says, "Yes, it is." So ladies and gentlemen, we got to be somebody's first purchase at their first con ever. And I take that as a serious win. A Lois Lane cosplayer came by and really liked the punk rock sticker, and she bought that. And we had a good conversation. We talked about a lot of different things, and I gave her a Superman button off of my button rack just to add to her Lois Lane cosplay, which was cool. There was a Rumi cosplayer from K-pop Demon Hunters walking around with a cosplayer from Kill Bill, which was pretty amazing, and I really appreciated them. And they came looking for my booth specifically, which was also encouraging. Said that they literally came out of their way to find it, which I appreciate. The food line at concessions, which was right by my booth, appeared to be longer than any guest line for the whole weekend. That's not knocking their guests. That's not shortchanging their tremendous effort. But people were about the con food here. Like, for real. There was a person that came by that says, "Hey, I saw you at Florence. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm grateful for you, and that I'm remembering you and praying for you." So that was pretty great. As the show day went on, I realized I was about out of the Darth Vader shirt. And so, yeah, I've got to do some inventory, but probably not in 2025. There were two dudes walking through the con, and one dude literally stopped in his tracks, and the guy bumped into him. He says, "Why did you stop?" And the guy just says very casually, very Big Lebowski-esque, "This says faith and fandom. I have both of those." And then we proceeded to have a conversation, and he bought stuff and we talked. But literally, it was just the immediate reaction of, hey, these are two things that I have, and I would like to explore this conversation. And that's literally why we do what we do. And it's a big deal with that. Yeah. Kid rolled a D20 to get free Pokemon cards, so I gave him a giant stack, and the parents said that we made their whole weekend. And yeah, some of my friends, booth friends from down the way, their family and stuff came, and they were really cool. And they bought my Chit Do It Lady card, and before they left, I gave them one of the Pokemon cards my kids had made for me. And they asked me to sign it, and I'm like, what? And it's the first time in my memory that I've ever actually signed one of my own Pokemon cards. And so then their group came and had got another card just to have me sign it, and it was funny. But yeah, one of the other things I just thought was kind of crazy, as Saturday was ending or getting near the end, the voice actor for Wolverine from the X-Men animated series just got in line at concessions. Now, I don't know if he just wanted to walk. I don't know if he just wanted something specific, but I don't think in my mind I've ever seen a celebrity guest literally get in line at concessions before. Like, I would figure somebody was taking care of them, or a volunteer or something was doing something else. And like, I didn't see anybody else doing that. So I'm assuming I had to, like, just literally watching this dude walk up in his Wolverine jacket and order food and stuff, like, in his Wolverine voice was just like, what is happening? Yeah. Yeah. It was a whole thing. But yeah, also I saw literally one of the most dreadfully iconic moments of Comic-Con world ever to me. That says this is where we are. There was a furry cosplayer. And I'm not, this isn't an anti-furry post. This is an anti-what comes next post. There was a furry, and if you're not aware, a furry is a person that's wearing a giant animal suit that usually has an oversized, like, Disney size, like Disney theme park size level head. They're usually like wolves or something along that line. There was a furry in front of me that had opened up the mouth of their animal face thing, and they were vaping inside of the animal head. Like, they were just sticking the vape all the way into their mouth and then vaping inside the head without removing the head. So you just see this, like, furry face with, like, vape just kind of, like, oozing out. And I'm just like, I don't think this is being done for visuals. I think they're just doing that. And I was just like, well, here we are. This is it. Ashley came by with Apollo, which is her new to me service dog that she's training, and Apollo is super duper skittish. Yeah, it was a good day. It was a really good day. Overall, I left the show. I went and grabbed some pizza at New York Pizza right by my hotel. I watched the waves for a while, and I just took time to breathe. But it was a really solid day. In terms of experience, in terms of ministry and connection, I really felt like it was just one of my more solid days of getting just to talk to people, connect with people, interact with people. And I also say this, the panels at the con are held on the same show floor, just kind of divided by pipe and drape, which is not something I haven't seen before. But because of where I was, I could sit there and listen to all the panels. So yeah, that was neat. It was kind of cool. And overall, just really enjoyed the vibe of that Saturday at BoardWalk Comic Con. And I'm going back and checking my photos and stuff for the day. There was a really cool combination of the Demon Slayer character that goes, says flashy and stuff. The one I always forget, the one that like loses an arm or whatever. The Hiroshima. I forgot what they're called. The Demon Slayer elite people. Either way. There was one of that was like a combination of Batman and that, and it was really fire. They also, at this Comic-Con, they have a whole free pinball arcade, and there was a Sopranos pinball machine, which I'm used to seeing nerdy pinball machines, but I enjoy the Sopranos, and I was excited to see that. I did some sketches. I did a Rhea Ripley sketch and a Swamp Thing sketch because that day's Inktober was murky. Then there also, I had set out for a goal when I started Saturday morning was I wanted to do a crossover piece with my sketch cards. In the last couple of weeks, I've started watching Naruto for the first time, just to have as my like background boredom show while I'm doing graphic design throughout the day. And so I've kind of enjoyed Naruto. I think on my last podcast, I said that it wasn't great. I think I've hit some greatness. I don't think it's the greatest anime I've seen, and there's a lot of just Naruto yelling Sasuke. But it's good. So I had the thought I wanted to do a mashup series of sketch cards. So I did one of Naruto wearing Luffy's gear and Luffy wearing Naruto's gear, of Deku wearing Goku's gear and Goku wearing Deku's gear. And I did that as a little 4-piece sketch card set. And I really enjoyed doing that. And that was like my goal, and it kept me focused throughout the day for that. So I ate pizza at New York's pizzeria, got some little cannolis. It was good. It was a good time. I came back and chilled for the night with that. And you know what? They were blaring country music when I got to my room, but they stopped like around like late dinner time, and I went to bed eyeballing that side of the room, waiting for the music to kick on and preemptively being angry. And just never happened. They didn't get loud or anything. I also did go down to the hot tub before I went to sleep, just for a little bit. But it was good. The next day was with Sunday. I did a lot of church stuff in terms of dealing with church at home to make sure stuff was going smoothly-ish from there. But yeah, it was a good day. Sunday morning, kind of got up and got things going, and there was, at the hotel that I was at, they had a couch with a fireplace that overlooked the ocean. And I'd sat there and ate my breakfast and drank my coffee and just watched the waves and the sunrise before I went to the show, and spent some time in prayer and just enjoying the morning and being grateful. Because I'm going to tell you this, if you can be in a place where you can watch the ocean and watch a sunrise. I also got up that morning at 7 just to watch the sunrise. If you can be in a place where you can watch the sunrise over the ocean, you need to be grateful for your life. And you need to take a moment and say, thank you, God, because it's absolutely something beautiful. And a lot of people may not get that opportunity. And I don't ever want to lose track of being grateful for getting to see a sunrise over the ocean, But yeah. Any trip where you can watch the sunrise over the ocean is a good trip. That I had that in my notes. Pizza place, yeah, hot tub. And I'll say this, and if you are aware of some of my medical condition right now, like I am experiencing some numbness in a way, but also like because of something that's going wrong with my spine, I can't feel temperature on like the lower right side of my body, so like my legs and stuff. And so getting in a hot tub when you can't feel heat on half of your body is super weird. Super weird. Sunday morning started off pretty well. One of my friends came to help me Sunday morning for the show and to like just help me pack up and stuff at the end. And right at the beginning of the show, as I'm sitting down to sketch, let me backtrack too. Was it Sunday? Oh, yeah, it was Sunday morning, so this is the right time. I got there like an hour early, and I was drinking my coffee and getting ready, and one of the vendors came over and said, "I have to have that shirt," and talking about the God is a fan of you. And as soon as that was over, one of the folks from Dragon's Lair came over and yelled at me, like, and throw a few explicatives my way and said, "How are you selling stuff before the show even starts?" It was just funny. But a mom came over me at the beginning of the con, and she spent a lot of time like very intently looking through the content and just poring over everything, and she was almost very tearful in her eyes just as she was looking at the stuff. And I just let her do her thing, and I answered any questions, and I just kept drawing. And she said she wanted a God is a fan of you shirt. She wanted to know what size I had it in, and she wanted a bigger one. And she said that she wanted to get it for her son. It's her son's birthday. But her son had been struggling with image and it being, what's the right word? He was very unhappy with his own image as a person, and he had some real negative thoughts about his own appearance and his own value. And the mom, you could tell the mom was very, very burdened for her kid, as you would be, because if you've ever been a parent, watching your kid not be comfortable in their own skin or happy in their own body, it's a hard place to be. I've been there, and I've been that person too. But so I listened to her, and she was just gonna get the shirt. That was all she was getting. I was like, all right, well, here's a list of stuff that's in books. Pick out a book. You said it's his birthday. I'm gonna give him I'm gonna give him a book for his birthday. I'm gonna give him, and I pulled out every sticker I had that was just genuinely encouraging, and I made her a stack of stickers. And I said, you can give him this for his birthday and everything. And a little while later, 3-4 hours later, that young gentleman came by and asked me if I would write in his book. And you could see that he was very happy to get it. It's just that thing, y'all, that's literally why we're there. There are so many moments throughout the weekend where it's just like, yep, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. Good conversations of this is why I'm here. Yeah. There was a gentleman who came by the booth. He's like, oh, thank goodness you're back. And this is somebody that had bought a Batman Faith and Fandom shirt like back in 2015 at a Comic-Con in Myrtle Beach. He says, I'm so glad you're back. I need this Batman shirt. And, I've got the same verse on a shirt, but I had to update the Batman design. He says, I wore that shirt so much that I wore it to death and it fell apart and all the writing came off. And I've been waiting and hoping there'd be another Myrtle Beach show where I could get this shirt from you. And I said, well, that's really funny because we had to update the design because we did it for so long that the screen for the shirt came off. And so it was, I thought it was funny that a dude literally has been wearing a Faith and Fandom Batman shirt for 10 years. 10 years, y'all. 10 years this dude's been wearing this shirt. And he was just waiting for the chance to get a new one, which is just bonkers. Yeah. So the show, and then at some point during Sunday too, Ashley came by and Um, y'all, and I've said this before, and when you're walking past these people at these booths, you don't know how they're doing emotionally. People are going to smile at you because you're walking by, and most people that aren't there just for ministry are going to be also hoping you buy things, so they're going to give you a smile and stuff. But y'all, it can be really hard sitting there for a whole weekend because you can be really emotionally struggling and not have a chance to breathe. And at one point during the weekend, and I'm going to not be very detailed with this because it's not my story to tell per se, but Ashley came by and sat there with Apollo for a while, and we talked about struggles and well-being in terms of being a vendor and purpose and value. And we talked about those things because, listen, it was stuff that she was experiencing. It's stuff I've experienced before, but, every person behind every booth is going through something, and you don't know how well they're doing, which is why I think it's important. Like, I think I'm intentional to be kind to the people on the other side of the booth. The people behind the booths need it just as much. And you know what? Not just the people who don't know Jesus. The people who know Jesus are probably also struggling too. So I'm really grateful that Ashley was there, and grateful for what God's done in her life so far with fangirling and to come. As we were packing up, my friend was helping me load up and everything, and I got all my gear out to the curb, and my friend stood there. And if you've seen my tower of stuff, it's a cart with 4 tubs and some shelves hanging off. It's a massive thing. And my friend was standing there holding the spot for me to pull up and load my gear so I didn't have to go over a bunch of bumps and stuff. And another artist literally cut in front of me and parked their car directly in front of all of my gear. I had to keep my head down, and I had to work on my attitude because everything in me wanted to be super petty, wanted to be super grumpy, and wanted to fuss and all these things, and it just wasn't worth it. So I didn't. But it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. But, all good. Loaded up and came back, and I was heading back, and as I was heading back, I got to Tabor City, North Carolina, maybe somewhere in there, and as I was heading on towards the last 45 minutes of my drive, my check engine light came on and my car started being funky. And that's not what you want to happen. And I'm going to continue this on past the con just a little bit just to say, or I'm going to continue the car story, but let me finish this to stay. This was a great show. This was a great show in general. And it was a great show for a Myrtle Beach show. It's probably the best Myrtle Beach show I've been to since 2017. Or maybe before that. Probably 2017. And I really hope they continue, and I hope they do well. I felt like I got to make some really good impacts. I got to enjoy a little bit of peace, minus the stopping, dropping, and opening up shops. And I just got to really appreciate what God was doing there. I was driving as my check engine light came on, and all the anxiety in the world hit me. Because, y'all, this is one of the busiest weeks of my life. I'm not even kidding. July and October are my 2 busiest months of the year. And this was the busiest week of October so far. That's only the second week of October, whatever. This and the week of leading up to Halloween are going to be my 2 busiest weeks. I had a surgical consult in Wilmington on Monday. I had a ministry conference in Greensboro on Tuesday. I had a 21 Pilots concert in Charlotte on Wednesday. And I had a mental health day that I had to DJ for and take photos for on Thursday. And I'm supposed to leave on Friday for Boone Comic Con. And my check engine light came on and all the anxiety of the world hit me with that. Come Monday morning, after my surgical consult, I dropped off my car at the place I normally get my work done, and they said, "Hey, the code that pops up is your catalytic converter, and that could require welding, and we don't do that, so you need to take it to our sister store on the other side of town." So I got a friend from church to pick me up after I dropped off the car. And I dropped off my car at like 2:30, and they said, "Yep, it's catalytic converter. It's going to cost XYZ." I can go and tell you because it didn't turn out like that. It said it was going to cost me about $954 for all the things considered. But then when I went to go pick up my car, because they weren't going to work on it today, they were going to have to order a part or whatever. The woman said, "Yeah, we don't want it. We don't want to do it. It's going to be too much work. No." And effectively said, "We don't want your business." And that threw me so hard. I was already having an emotional day. I literally just met with a surgeon, and I had a long weekend, and I wanted to cry. Yeah. So a lot of rigmarole with the car, back and forth. But I borrowed a van to get by on Tuesday to go to a ministry conference in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this conference because it's not what you care about. It was a good conference, though. I had a really good breakout session about building volunteer culture that doesn't burn people out. And I had a really good breakout session on ministry and marketing, which was cool, which would actually probably help me better at my mogul job than at church, but it's good for both. It was actually really solid. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, "That sounds interesting," I've got the PowerPoint slides and I can send to you. It was really informative. But here's all I'm going to tell you about the ministry conference. It's going to be like 2 sentences and we'll move on. I got to the conference. The rest of my pastoral team was there, and there's a dude I work with named DJ, who's a kid that used to literally be in my youth group, and he is always joking and laughing at me because wherever we go, we run into somebody that knows me. Like at one point in time, we went to New York City, and we were sitting at a coffee shop in New York City, and a friend from high school came up and said hey to me. And they've never let me down with that. Or never let that go. Sorry. So we're doing the meet and greet stuff, like, kind of all talking, having coffee before the conference starts. And like after the first session ends, DJ says to me, he's like, "Man, I'm surprised in a room this big, nobody knows who you are." I was like, I said, "Dude, I'm not famous in every circle. I'm not even famous in the circles that people see a giant banner with my name on it. It's like, I'm not famous like that." And then about 30 seconds later, a young woman, and I hope I'm not getting her name wrong. My brain is foggy. A young woman named Alyssa comes up and says, "Hey, I want to say that I really appreciate what you do with Faith and Fandom. I'm a really big fan of your books." And I start just laughing. I was like, "DJ, come here." And I was like, "Listen to this." And he's like, "Man, I told you you were going to run into somebody." But I got to have a good conversation with her. And she brought up something that I said at Geek Church. And she was talking about specific Geek Church sermons. And she said that she was texting her, I don't remember if she said her husband or her pastor or somebody else. And I think it might have been her husband, but she said as soon as she saw me and she realized it was me, she started texting her husband that the Geek Church guy was at the conference, and they're like kind of freaking out over that. It's just funny. And And it's also that thing of like, you never know where you're being seen, and even in circles where you don't feel like you're seen, you never know. But it was cool because listen, if you put me in a room of several hundred pastors, I'm the oddball. I promise. So much so that I walked into this ministry conference wearing, I think, khakis, a Goofy Movie button-up shirt that has sketches of the early drawings of a Goofy Movie, and a 21 Pilots bandana. And a young woman came up. She said, "Hey, forgive me, but just based on the vibe, we're having a discussion over there on what you do based on your whole vibe. So what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a location pastor of a church." She's like, "Not at all what I thought. I thought you were into creative." I was like, "Well, I do all that stuff too, but I am, like, my title's location pastor." But it was just, you put me in a room full of, I'm not going to say that everybody in ministry is a muggle, but there's a lot more muggles than not muggles, if you feel me. And so it was nice to have a nice geeky connection in a ministry context. So that was the ministry conference I went to. But then I'm going to leave this for the 21 Pilots. I was taking my 3 daughters to 21 Pilots concert, and my oldest was going to meet us there. And like, we get out of the car, and if I'm not going to try and explain all of this to you right now if you don't know what's going on with it, but from a certain point in 21 Pilots, they started a storyline that goes from their music videos and their albums, starting with the album Blurry Face up until their current album Breach. And a lot of their outfits and some of this stuff requires duct tape. You can look at Trench outfits and stuff, you'll see it. But my kids are getting out of the car, and I'm putting duct tape on my daughter, like not in a like prisoner way, like in patterns on her clothing. And as I'm getting out of the car, like I couldn't have been out of the car more than a minute. A young woman passes by me and says, "Hey, you drew me a torchbearer sketch at Heroes Con." And I was like, yeah, I did. And I can say that wholeheartedly, knowing exactly who she was, because I only drew one torchbearer sketch at Heroes Con. And if you go back and listen to the Artist Alley Aftermath podcast for Heroes Con this year, you can hear me talk about how much detail and time I put into that sketch. But one of the things my kids and I were doing at this concert is I have a sticker that I've been passing out or making for 21 Pilots for Faith and Fandom at my booth. It's a sticker that says "Push On Through." There's a song called Oldie Station. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and it's very emotionally wounding but beautiful and great to me and makes me cry. There's a song called Oldie Station, and there's a line, or the chorus of it is "Push On Through." So I made a sticker for that. And kind of my practice in general is anytime I see someone cosplaying as 21 Pilots stuff at Comic-Cons, which there are whole costumes that go with it, I always give them a free sticker of "Push On Through," or at least point that out to them, depending on the crowds and stuff like that. Because if there's a million people, I don't want to always like start that. But usually I do that, and I had connected with this young woman over that. Well, I made a new one based on some new stuff. There's so much good spiritual content in 21 Pilots music, and back in their song "Holding On to You" from 2013, one of the repeated choruses of it is "Entertain My Faith," which is like on a sticker on my Bible from years ago. And they bring that back up in their new song "City Walls," and then add to "Entertain My Faith," "Address My Soul." So I made a new sticker that reflects both of those things. I said, "Oh wait, I have a new 21 Pilot sticker, and I have it here for you." And I gave it to that young lady. And so it's literally, I drew her a sketch for free because she was in a cosplay months ago, and literally she saw me and we got to connect over that at this concert. There's 20,000 plus people outside of this thing, and she spots me and says, "You drew me a sketch." And that says to me a couple things. One, the impact is lasting because she remembers me drawing a sketch for her all this time. And the fact that, I got to do that is just, I'm not a great artist, but using your talent, even in the smallest ways, faithfully, can be a wonderful connection. I digress. So, that was cool. But one of the things is I brought 50 21 Pilot stickers to give out with me at this show. Because I'm not going to say it's basically based on Taylor Swift, but at one of the things that I've seen happening more and more between cons and concerts is people passing out friendship bracelets. And at the last 21 Pilots concert I went to back a year and a half ago, someone gave me a friendship bracelet, and they gave all of my kids friendship bracelets. And people were walking around with massive spindles of friendship bracelets they had made for the concert. I see this at cons too, where people are passing them out. One of my favorite things that I own is a cosplay bracelet. There's a friendship bracelet a cosplayer gave me that from Chopper in One Piece, which you can listen to on the Faith and Fandom 180s a million years ago, somewhere in there, or it's going to be in the next Faith and Fandom bite-sized book. I know that it's in there. Anyway, so I don't want to make friendship bracelets, but my deal was, if there are people with friendship bracelets, I would trade them a sticker for it. And, getting these stickers also has an opportunity. I'm not going to shoehorn every cause. Well, let me tell you about my booth and all these. I'm not doing all that, but to be able to connect people, and people really liked the stickers. So when we saw people in line and stuff getting the stickers, we would, trade them a sticker for a bracelet. And so my kids walked away with a solid gauntlet of friendship bracelets from that. And even when I sat down, because also I rolled my ankle really bad right before we left the house to go to the concert, so I was hurting the entire time. But I sat down as soon as we got to the lawn, but I gave my kids stacks of stickers and let them walk around and trade for bracelets, and they came back with a girthy amount. I even also laid out stickers on bandanas on the ground beside me while the sun was still up, and people were walking by and saying, "Can I trade you a bracelet for a sticker?" So it was a lot of good interactions, a lot of encouragement that got to be had there. And I'll say this wholeheartedly: if there's anybody that's already I know lots and lots of 21 Pilots fans aren't believers, but if you're listening to that music, there's something in your soul that's probably saying, "Hey, I should probably give this a thought." As the sticker that I said, entertain my faith with. But it was good interactions with that throughout the whole night. I gave a dad a push on through sticker from Oldie Station, and he's like, "That's my favorite song," and just started crying, literally. I got to see Ryan and Madison Holland, who have been coming to our Bible study at the arcade. I got to officiate their wedding a year or two ago, but they've been coming consistently to the Bible study I'm doing on Wednesday nights at an arcade called Ready Prayer 1. But I got to see them, and also a sad story. One of my favorite people I've met doing Faith and Fandom is a lady named Leah Malone. Leah passed away from cancer about a year and a half ago. There's a dedication to Leah and pictures of Leah in Faith and Fandom X and 9. I think there's pictures of her in 9, but there's a dedication to her in Faith and Fandom X because I loved her, but she passed away. The last conversation I had with Leah was right before the previous 21 Pilots concert about a year and a half ago. And I was going to that concert. It was the Clancy tour. It was the Lenovo Center in Raleigh. And she lives in Raleigh. Her kids live in Raleigh. And about a week before she passed away, she messaged me, and this was our final conversation. And she said, listen, I bought these tickets to take my son to 21 Pilots for his birthday. I believe it was his birthday. I don't want to go back and read the message. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to make it, or if I'm going to make it that long. And she asked me, make sure that he goes to the show, or that if he goes, that he's not alone. And I haven't seen that kid since then. I checked in with him before the show after his mom passed away, because his mom did pass away before the concert. I checked in with him via text and everything to make sure he made it to the show and that he had a ride and all these things. But I haven't seen that kid in the last year and a half. And as we were standing in line for the 21 Pilots concert, I get a tap on my shoulder, and it's him. He just bear hugs me and kind of collapses in line at this concert. And we didn't talk a whole ton about stuff. You know, I asked him how his brother was doing, but literally just that hug of all those things. But yeah. Also, it was a great concert. But yeah, so it's been a week, y'all. It's been a long week. And guess what? Tomorrow, or today, or whenever you listen to this, then in 12 hours, literally in 12 hours, I'm leaving to go do Boone Comic-Con, which you'll hear about sometime later. But it's been a very long week. Before I go, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters, because y'all are amazing and you help make everything we do possible. But take hey, we have a new Patreon supporter. Shut up. That's cool. Yeah. So, Adam Davis, Rebecca Godlove, Patrick Ailes, Sarah Lewis, Christina Ray, Jason Bullock, Jeanette Skaggs, Caleb Grimm, Zach Harris, John Jacobs, Todd Turner, Mike Perna, Jason Crutchfield, Jay Sheed, Alicia Glenn, Scott Ward, Gear Saber Cosplay, Ron Petit, Jonathan Herman, the Coleman family, Jamie Montgomery, Colin Sproles, Jeff Weimer, David Brooks, Lynn Turner. I forgot to talk about Miss Lynn. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm going to circle back to Lynn in a second. Michelle Stewart, Dorothy Martin Winston, Rivka and Tristan Birch, Fab Quack, Alan Wallace, Kelly Townsend, Jackie Kraft, and our newest Patreon supporter, Jessica Luttrell, from Cosplay for Christ, joining as a podcast partner with that. That's super cool. Miss Lynn Turner is one of my favorite people I've met in recent years doing Faith and Fandom. Her whole family basically makes the Captain's Comics Expo exist and function and do well. And she's a brilliant, beautiful soul, and I am grateful to have been able to connect with her. But I usually only see her at Captain's Comics Expo, which is the last weekend in February in Charleston, South Carolina. We'll interact online, but we don't usually. It's literally I see you once a year type situation. But whenever I see her, she's usually got treats and encouragement, and she's one of those people I can count on just to be solid, but also to be genuine and honest. And as the show was coming up, she let me know that her and her family were coming to visit, and I was super excited for that. And I set aside a Scrooge McDuck pin for them and a sketch that I did for her dad. And she came to visit and was just an encouragement. And her and her niece, and she brought me a batch of homemade mochi, y'all. What's up? Was delightful. But I got to talk to her a few times throughout the day when she was there on Sunday, and it was an absolute delight to have Miss Lynn come by and to see her. I'm grateful for that and grateful for her. But yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm just thankful. And so I kind of got sidetracked with everything else and forgot to mention that. But thank you, Miss Lynn, as well, for the mochi as well. I kind of wish my kids hadn't finished eating it because I could really go for some right now. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Everything you do helps make everything we do possible. And I'm grateful for you. And thank you all for listening. And I hope to see you all at a con real soon.